What's up, ladies and gentlemen? I'm sitting here with my Drive Match business partner, Ali, and in this video, we want to talk about the 3 biggest mistakes that consumers make when they're shopping for a car lease. Ali, I think the first biggest mistake that consumers make is that they put too much money down on a lease.
Agreed.
I think the rule of thumb that I typically try to go by is no more than 5% of the vehicle's MSRP. So on a $50,000 MSRP, maybe not putting more than $2,500 total down. That includes your first month's payment, registration fees, acquisition fee.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that? Is that?
I would, yeah. And even better if you can get just first month's payment or sign and drive. That's the best.
Yeah, I would say sign and drive is most optimal.
Yes.
Like, right, just sign it and then you're not worried about anything until the second month and you're going to make your first payment in the second month. I would say the second best case scenario is just putting first month's payment down.
Yep.
And then third best case scenario is would be first month's payment and then all fees, registration fees up front, and then but no more than 5%. So if you're shopping for a lease, please don't put more than 5% down on your lease.
And the second biggest mistake is actually negotiating the selling price, not the monthly payment. So the reason I say that is the dealer always wants to look at monthly payment. Yep. So it's always best to just that's at the end of the day where the rubber meets the road.
Yep.
So if you're armed with the correct tools and you have something like the Drive Match calculator where you can figure out, like, I want this $50,000 BMW. I want 8% off.
Yep.
I know these are all the terms. My monthly should be $600.
Yes.
You should go to the dealer and negotiate $600.
Yes.
Because if you go in and say, hey, I want 8% off, you may get that 8% off, but you're not going to, you may be at an $800 payment.
Yep.
So,
and the reason for that is because they could probably mark up the money factor, right?
Yep.
And then you have dealer add-ons that they could probably, throw into the car. So they'll be like, hey, Ravi, you got your 8% off, but
we have a deal.
We have a deal. And so, and then Ali also mentioned the Drive Match calculator, and the Drive Match calculator is great in this scenario because it's going to tell you the base money factor or the base interest rate if you're financing a car, and it just equips you with the tools to make the best decision possible, right?
Exactly.
The third biggest mistake that I would say a lot of consumers make is not getting enough mileage on their lease. But now there are some exceptions to this rule, and we'll talk about that as well. But what I'm basically saying is if you know you drive 12 or 15,000 miles a year, it typically makes more financial sense to just get 12 or 15,000 miles a year up front rather than getting like a 10,000 mile a year lease and then having to pay the excess mileage penalty, which oftentimes can be 20, 25, 30 cents, right?
Yeah.
Even upwards.
Some luxury cars like Maybach and Bentley, et cetera, can be $1. So
$1 a mile. And so we're saying that there's exceptions to this rule. And Ali was telling me that, high MSRP cars are typically the exception to this rule. So can you explain why that is?
Yeah, for sure. So cars like the EVs, like Mercedes EQS, BMW i7, have higher MSRPs in the $120,000, $130,000 range. Yep. And so when you go from 10,000 miles to 12,000 miles, that's 1% of residual. So in that case, you're looking at $1,300 plus interest plus tax.
Yes.
Whereas it may make more sense to pay the 25 cents. And we've honestly recommended that to most consumers on those cars to just pay the penalty because it's either going to be the same or better at the end of the lease. And
it kind of takes wasting money off the table. And what I mean by that is, let's say you get a 15,000 mile year lease and then your life circumstances change. Maybe you start working from home and you're not going to drive that 15,000 miles a year any longer. But now you've paid for that 15,000 miles a year up front. So unless you take a bunch of road trips, you're probably going to be out that money. So
and you're paying it in $2027 versus $2025.
Yeah,
so
that's a really, really good point. So, and the other exception to that rule, Ali, you were saying was the Nissan Infinity, right? Because you can pretty much buy the mileage for really cheap.
It's kind of a hidden hack, if you will. You can, if you purchase it 60 days before the end of the lease, you can buy miles for 10 cents a month.
That's so cheap.
10 cents a mile. and you can buy unlimited miles. So
which is fantastic.
Yeah.
So, because even we had a good family member that actually bought a car from us through
Yeah.
Drive Match, an Infiniti QX80, and we actually set him up with a 7,500 mile a year lease, knowing that he could buy mileage at any time for 10 cents. And to my knowledge, I mean, I met him a couple weeks ago. He was buying miles at 10 cents
nice.
a mile, which
Good.
is, I mean, it's a no-brainer. 10 cents a mile is very, very, very cheap
Yeah,
in
you
terms of the
can't
broader
beat that.
industry, right?
Yeah.
So, so those are our 3 tips. So, best of luck with your shopping.